Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of pre-calculus. And so in today's video, we'll be going over abstract algebra that are needed to master pre-calculus. And so this is the first question I have here. First off, I'm going to give you guys some time. You can pause the video, maybe take a minute or so to find the answer to the solution. And so let me first, before you start, point out some key aspects of this, all right? So the first thing you want to know, let me use a different color pencil. And so the squares. So knowing that you're dealing with squares here, so the square would be x squared of 2 consistent even. Know that this part right here is an even integer. So this will play a huge role in solving this. 2 consistent integers, so knowing that you have to do whole numbers, and then you want to take away this 1252 is the value of this, and then you're asked to find these integers. Okay, so I'll wait about 10 seconds. You guys can pause the video, and I'll start with the video. I'll start with the equation. Okay. All right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to lay out a general equation that you must use throughout, right? So these are kind of steps that you want to take when solving equations relating to algebra and pre-calculus. So first, I have the general equation. What is it? What are you asked to solve? So the first thing you know is that you're looking for squares, right? Squares, and then we can use variable. It can be really any variable. We're going to use x here, which is the most common one. And then you're going to use consistent right here. This is a big word, consistent. So consistent even. All right. So this is general equation. This is what you know so far. So based off that, it's 1252, right? So looking at the squares of 2 consistent even numbers. So x squared. And then some people might say this, it's x squared. Ooh, that was not supposed to happen. Sorry about that. They would say x squared plus x squared equals 1252. And if you find the error here, it's really important towards the question. So you're looking at consistent even integers, and a keyword here is consistent or consecutive, right? And so if you look here, where's the consecutiveness in this? This essentially will be like 2x squared equals 152, and that's sorry, 1252, and that's all that's asking is for just the square and then the sum of 2 of them, right? So that is completely wrong. Go back on this. Okay, let's come here. All right. So now you see 2 consistent even, right? So when looking at, let's look at a row of like the numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, right? So a consecutive one would have a value of 1, right? A consecutive even, so the 2 ones that are even are here, 2 and 4. What is the difference? It's 2, right? So now you're going to come here and you're going to say, let's lay it out here, right? So it's x squared plus a y squared equals a 1252, right? Y would be x plus 1, x plus 2, sorry, x plus 2. And that essentially is what you're going to go here. So you're going to get x plus, so that's x plus 2, right? So that would mean this equation right here would have an x plus 2 squared equals 1252, right? And now we're just gonna lay out bases here. We're gonna do x squared plus x squared. You should be able to know how to do perfect squares. You're gonna get 4x because 2 plus 2, and then 4, which is 2 times 2. And then this all equals 1252. Okay, and now you want to simplify. So you have the general equation right here. Next part, which is what you will use to find the answer, simplifying, right? So 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals a 1252. You can obviously use your calculator here. 2x squared plus 4x equals, I'm going one by one just for you guys to actually notice everything that's going on. And now what you can do here is you can divide each side by 2, giving you x squared plus 2x equals, I believe that value is a 624. Come back around, x squared plus 2x minus 624 equals 0, okay? And now the steps you can use now are just obviously the quadratic formula. If you don't know what the quadratic formula is, I will put a little side here. This is an equation that must be memorized. So if ax squared plus bxc, x, the value of x would be this negative b plus or minus the square root of the discriminant if everyone knows what the discriminant is, it tells you how many solutions there are. And so the discriminant is always b squared minus 4ac, and then this entire value will be divided by 2a, right? So you can use that. What I'll be using is a little different. So I know that, so obviously two values that would subtract, as you know, because this is a negative right here, they have to subtract equal 2, and they're when multiplied together, they have to equal 624. You can use a calculator, or you can just use the quadratic formula. And I know that this would equal 26 and 24. And 26 and minus 24, sorry. So now you know that x plus 26, and then x minus 24 here. That's, so sorry, it's not filling it out. So now you know the values are negative 26, 24, and you look at this and you're I mean, it's asking for two consecutive even integers. So the keyword here is integer. Integer, obviously x is greater than 0. What is going on with this pen? Sorry, 1 second. So you know that x has to be greater than 0, and it has to be in a whole number, right? A whole number. So this is what an integer is. We can erase that. Let's put it like, and this can be put here, greater than 0, whole. And then, I mean, when you look at negative 26 and 26, these are all relatively similar, because negative 26 squared is the exact same as 26 squared, right? So now you're going to go back to this and say negative 26 is extraneous, and this will be a negative 26 and a 24. And this should be your answer. So comment down below if you got this one right. I know this was a little bit hard, knowing abstract algebra. And this was a little kind of bonus of a kind of equation here. You know, obviously having the ability to think about these questions, these will appear in quizzes, appear on tests, and knowing how to do it is really helpful. And so first you want to lay out a general equation, then you want to simplify, and then the last step is obviously finding your answer. Okay, we're going to clear all. Okay, all right. Now we're going to go over the reciprocal. And so how to find, so suppose I'm giving the equation 1 over 4 plus 5 over the square root of 5. So whenever the general layout of algebra, and for future math, pre-calculus, calculus even, is that this square root right here should not be on the denominator. And so we know that the numerator is on top, and the denominator is on the bottom, right? So let's clear that. All right. So given the equation 1 plus 4, 5, you want to simplify this so that this square root is not on the bottom, it's on the denominator. Okay. So I'll give you guys some time to work on this, and you can pause the video. I'm just going to take like 5 seconds off, and then you guys can work on it. Okay. So this is really, obviously, if you've taken algebra 2 trig, this should be an easy question for you. You're gonna have 1 plus 4 plus 5, the square root of 5, right? And so what you want to do is you want to find an equation for this that would just take it out, and it would keep instead of the square root here, keep it on top, right? And whenever I want to clarify this, right? Suppose you have x plus y equals r, we can multiply both sides by 1. Right, and that won't do anything to this side r, but this may affect this side. So if I want to, like, if I can do this, right, I can do it times x equals r times x, right? And this is a 1. So if I finish this, it'd be an x squared plus xy, and then an r, just an r, because this just cancels out as 1, right? And so that's just a little side note. But like, that's just for algebra. I want to make sure you guys know that, right? Actually, I might keep that for you guys' knowledge. Okay. All right. So knowing that, what I want you to, okay. So when doing this, I believe it's called reciprocal. And so essentially you're finding something that when multiplied with this, what most people actually do is they say, why can't I just multiply by itself and then have it divisible by it, right? So 4 plus 5, right? But what this does is in turn, it gives you a 4 plus 5, which is what you want. You want the square root on top of on the numerator. But with the denominator, it will just give you this 16x plus 5. And then this would be obviously a square root or times the square root of itself will give the number inside of it. And so that's not what you want to do, right? Because you're still going to end up with the actual square root on the denominator. And one way of solving this is, if you know this, I'm just going to keep this as a side for like any of the values that I'm going to be presenting. An x minus y times an x plus y. Like the change in, look at that, plus, minus and plus, right? This will give you an x squared minus y squared. That's exactly what I want to do here. I'm going to go 4 minus the square root of 5, not 4 plus, 4 minus the square root of 5. We're going to have them together, right? And then this in turn will give you, obviously 1 times this will be just that value. So 4 square root 5. Now, knowing this equation right here, x minus y, x plus y. So we know that 4 squared is a 16. Square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. That'll be a subtraction, right? So now we're going to go 4, 11. Okay, so now we know how to just simplify this square root out of the denominator. This is really important for pre-calculus. And this is the reason why I'm bringing it out today. And so knowing that, we're going to go on to the next activity, okay? And this is going to be the final less kind of activity that I'm going to be presenting here in week 3 pre-calculus. And that's using the quadratic formula as we discussed in the beginning. There's a reason why I chose the beginning as the introduction. I'll make it a little hard on you guys. Okay. So given the equation 3x squared plus 14x plus 15 equals 0, find x. Okay. So coming into this equation, obviously, the general layout, as I mentioned before, and I hope you guys are paying attention, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now let's plug it in, right? 3 is equal to a, 14 is b, 15 is c. Let's write that down here. A equals 3, b equals 14, c equals 15, right? And now let's look at the equation, right? Obviously, the quadratic formula. I want you guys to memorize this, okay? Next class, we're going to be really going to be, in depth with the equation and more on it. All right. And so remember, if you guys know this discriminant, well, that's what we're going to go over next class, is finding the discriminant. We'll go over some later if you guys would like, but that's our primary focus for next class, over to A. All right. So now all we do is just chug and plug, right? Plug and chug. X equals a negative 14. That's not a 14, I apologize. A negative 14 plus or minus. Remember this plus or minus, right? It's a little weird symbol, but this is important for it, okay? 14 squared minus 4, 3, 15. Then this is all divided by a 2, a 3, sorry. A 2 times a 3. Okay. Now, in the next part, this is a general equation, right? Remember how we're going to label these? There's a general equation. And then there's a part where you have to simplify. Okay. So x equals negative 14 plus or minus, that'd be a 1. You can use a calculator here if you don't know how to solve it. It would be a 140 plus a 56, so that'd be a 196 minus a 60, and then it says 60 times 30 is a 180, all over 6, right? X equals of negative 14 plus or minus, obviously 196 minus 180 is a 16. The square root of 16, as we all know, is 4, 6. That's a bad 6. All over 6. Okay. Now there are different ways of putting this together. Obviously, we know it's a plus or minus, so we're going to branch it out into 2 equations. First equation is that x equals a negative 14. I'll rewrite that. Sorry. A negative 14 plus 4 over 6 And the other one is that x equals a negative 14 minus 4 over 6. Obviously, you want to factor this out. That would be a negative 10 over 6 and negative 5 over 3 as one of your answers. Put answers here. Oh, that does not look good, sorry. And then this one would be a negative 18 over 6 and negative 3. Okay, so that's how we use a quadratic formula in order to actually know how to solve these hard equations, because using factoring is just extremely difficult, and even using the perfect square, as we learned in last class, is also very difficult, right? Because if I were to use it, this is going to a little side note, you have to factor out the 3, and this right here will be a denominator, and so it will have a denominator. I apologize. It's not going to be an integer, as we learned in the other class, in today's class as well, that it's just a whole number greater than 0. And so this is a really important way of actually factoring quadratic equations such as these. And so in next class, we're going to be working on the discriminant. I want to make sure you guys know and you're able to prepare for this, a discriminant and what that does. And everyone should know that the discriminant is right here, b squared minus 4ac. And then we'll be also working on other ways to factor out and other methods, and that can really help out pre-calculus. My name is Akshat, and thank you for listening. And I'll hope you guys are ready for week 4 that is about to come.